West Tigers fans, our boys, they head out to Tamworth for the very last time as they take on the Knights. Let's preview that game tonight on another episode of the WestsLife Podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the WestsLife Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Barnett. We are brought to you by Mobile Corp and Chase Bet, and we'll get to we've got a new person picking our bets of the week this week at WestsLife Pod on Instagram and Twitter if you want to give us a follow. But most importantly, the thing I do plugs always at the start of the show is shouts to Headband Harvest on the YouTube stream. Already saying it. We are 8 subs. What's what Headband Harvest is saying. So basically, we'll call it less than 10 YouTube subscribers from cracking 1,000. I thought we'd do that by the end of the year, and we're like this close. So if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed, please do. Shouts to you all joining us live right now. If you're watching on, we're on Instagram, Facebook at the moment as well. Head over to the YouTube, and if you are watching, do watch on the Instagram feed, which I have running at the moment. I can't actually bring your comments up unless you're on the Facebook or the YouTube, but shouts to all of you tuning. I can see a few people tuning in on there as well. So YouTube, hit it, smash it at WestsLife Pod on YouTube. All right, let's see if we can get it by the end of the show. Right, so I'll bring in my stats man, the West Tigers tragic himself, the countryman of the show, the rural, the farmer, the farm's hand, the handyman. He's a man of the land. So as we talk about Tamworth, how good are you at riding a tractor, being a country boy?
G'day, Josh. G'day to our special guest as well. I won't spoil who that is just yet, but I have never ridden a tractor in my life, mate. So I don't want to give anyone any ideas of my tractor riding prowess because, quite frankly, I don't know if I can.
I've mowed a lawn on a ride-on lawnmower. Does that count? Does that get me country points?
Yeah, why not? I mean, you get quad bikes and everything out in the country. There's a little country town called Cargo, about half an hour from Orange, and I used to have family out there, and they had a quad bike and on their property. So you get that, you get tractors, you get the whole kit and caboodle.
Hey, I grew up in Terrigal, so we're one and the same. We're country, CRL represent. Just a couple of country boys. We are right out, I guess, for tonight, representing his Newcastle Knights. I don't know if you're a country boy yourself. Obviously, the Knights being a country team. Stu, how do you go with a tractor? And yeah, give us a bit of an intro and how you became a Newcastle Knights fan.
G'day, fellas. I don't know if I'd be much good on a tractor, but definitely consider myself at least part of the country, probably the gentrified country, being Newcastle. But I've been a Knights fan my whole life. I was born in and still live in Newcastle, lived here all my life. My old man was tied up with the Knights back towards when they were first created. He worked in marketing, so did a lot of their marketing stuff. And I've kind of just been in it from day dot since I hit the deck back in the early 90s. And it's just always been a big part of my life, as it is for a lot of people in this town. It's sort of like being in Newcastle and being around Newcastle. If you hear pretty much every time the Knights win, my first half a dozen calls at work on a Monday will be, mate, how about those Knights? And if they lose, the first half a dozen calls are, mate, how shit are the Knights? So it's very much just a part of as a way of life up here.
Growing up in the Central Coast, we got a little bit of it. I grew up, like I said, Terrigal's the southern end of the Central Coast, but like you would get, like we had NBN TV and Prime TV
Yeah.
on the coast. You know who Big Dog is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's finally.
No, girls and boys, sweet dreams.
At the end of every show, I say, "Let's say goodnight to Big Dog," and no one gets that reference. So finally, we have someone that actually will get that reference because it's an NBN country.
Yeah,
reference.
My partner's from Granville, and trying to explain what Big Dog is to them was a real challenge.
Yeah. Oh, well, she can introduce you to Eljana's, and you can tell her about.
Oh yeah, no, mate. Apparently the true Granville OGs reckon it's Hawa, which is another chicken joint in Granville, which is apparently low key better.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay.
Knowledge.
There you go. I have to check that one out. The only Newcastle, the bit of a link to Newcastle for myself. I don't think I've said this on the show before. Let me know, as it is one of my shit stories that go on a tangent. So, are you old enough to remember the Newcastle earthquake?
I wasn't alive, but my mum was a cop and she was a first responder, so I've heard a lot about it anecdotally.
So my dad worked across the road from what's the club that
Newcastle was the Newcastle Workers Club back then. It's now West City, but it was Newcastle Workers Club back then.
So my dad used to have knockoff drinks. He worked across the road from there. Right. Yeah. And he actually, so I think it's 1989 that happened. So I was a baby. He actually decided he was actually going to have after work drinks there or go like there that day, but decided to go home and see me. This is what he tells me. I don't know. He's probably might be lying. Who knows? But he literally said he got on the F3 and could see ambulances and cops going chum 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 down the highway. And sure enough, got home. No internet, obviously, in 1989. Got home and found out that a lot of people lost their lives in the Newcastle earthquake. So. Bit of Newcastle chat to start the
Newy chat. Love it.
Bit of Newy. Shouts to the Hunter region. Shouts to ChaseBet, our sponsor and our betting partner. If you want to get on ChaseBet, I know we've been talking about it in the Discord. A lot of the guys have gotten on and gotten deals from them. So if you go to our link tree via westlife.com.au, hit the purple button, sign up to ChaseBet if you haven't already, and send them a message in a little chat. Say you're from the WestsLife Pod. Let the guys know that that we sent you. And as I always forget to bring this up, but I won't forget to do it this week. So got to find my. Help me out. Talk for a bit. Talk about what you're thinking with the punting this week, while I bring up the little spiel here. I've got to say.
Well, I don't want to get too deep into our preview because we'll obviously talk about that a little bit. But there's a couple of real toss of the coin games, and I think a couple of very worthy underdogs throughout the entire round. Obviously, we'll talk more about that in our tipping later on. I may have tipped some upsets. I may not. I can't exactly remember what I sent to Josh, but we will find out.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858, 1-800-858-858, or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. You think I would know that off by heart by now, but I'm an idiot. Righto, on to the news. Phil Gould came out. So the whole thing about Steph, this whole Steph saga, man, I just want him to re-sign and get it over and done with. So there's rumors of $1 million a year, $900K a year, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, if you don't know, if he plays Origin, 2 Origin games or if we make the finals, which is obviously not likely now, his option for next year happens. But I mean, either way, as we want Steph to sign on well beyond next year.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's definitely the future of our club. One of those players that we can build our team around moving forward. I'd be extremely disappointed if we lost him. He's shown a lot of promise so far this year. Hasn't been his best year, or maybe it has been his best year. But in saying that, definitely a player we don't want to lose.
From the outside looking in, for you, Stu, what are your thoughts on Steph? And look, and his form with the club. How important do you think he is to our club?
I think he's vital. I've been really impressed with him this year. Just obviously his size and his physicality, but he's got leg speed. He's got some late movement at the line, and I think he's young. And he's a guy that I think you've rightly articulated. You could quite conceivably build a forward pack around. And he's a guy, certainly if he was in my side, that I'd want him for a long time. I mean, I don't know whether $900,000 is too much to pay him. I always think these kinds of, you've paid too much for him type arguments, or we don't want to pay too much for him type arguments are a bit weird to me, because it's not your money. Who gives a shit? But he's an important player for you guys, I think. I think the fact that there's talk about him being in Origin speaks to how far he's come in a relatively short space of time, particularly in a side like with you guys who've been struggling, like you haven't been doing all that well in recent years. And there's been some uptick this season for you guys. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, but I can't see how you guys don't do everything you conceivably can to hold on to him, because all that'll happen if he goes, he'll go somewhere else and he'll knock it out the park. And every West Tigers fan of, how did they let him go?
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys have got to resign him. You just got to.
Not to mention the tens and thousands of media articles we'll get about how the Tigers let another one get away.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you got to keep him. I rate him massively.
Speaking of State of Origin, the women's Origin is next Thursday. Is that right? Suncorp?
That is correct. Yep.
And congratulations to West Tigers NRL reps Kezi Apps and Sarah Togatuki. They've made the Blues side as.
Yeah, they have. I was honestly fully expecting them to be named their incumbents, and showed last year that they're still playing their best footy. I thought they'd be shoo-ins to be selected. The state of the New South Wales women's forward pack is such that Sarah is starting on the bench. So there's a lot of talent in this squad. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from it. And yeah, it's how they're kicking off Magic Round next week with the Women's Origin game 1 on Thursday before the 8 games of footy across 3 days from Friday to Sunday.
Yeah, that every year gets better and better. It's 3 games this year too. Are they going 3 this year or next year?
This year, yeah. So last year ending in a 1-1 draw, and Queensland winning that on the aggregate, which was the stupidest thing I'd ever heard. They've immediately had the discussions and gone straight to 3 games. So women's game 1 is next week. Then women's game 2 is the day before men's game 1. And then women's game 3 is the day before men's game 2, which gives the reps for New South Wales and Queensland time after that to head back to Clubland and get a decent, I think, roughly 5-week block of preseason training in before the NRLW starts later on.
I can't wait. I love, last year's series, obviously, as you said, was a 1-1 draw. That was a cracker. Speaking of cracker, that's probably not a good choice of words here. The Indigenous Jersey has been released by the West Tigers. It's a similar, I would say, starting point as the Anzac jersey of last year. So like a white version of the jersey, and then with a Indigenous print across the belly with an orange sort of fade, kind of similar to, I'm sure everyone remembers. I'm sure you remember our Anzac jersey from last year, the original, and the I actually do know the person that does have the original jersey of that. So shouts to you if you are listening out there. He did show me a photo that he got his hands on it, which is pretty cool. But anyway, talking about Indigenous jersey, what are your thoughts on this one? As I like it, it's cool, it's clean.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm hearing a lot of opinions that it's not all that great. The white going into the orange doesn't look all that great, but I personally don't mind it. I think the blending of the white to the orange, similar to the camouflage style, but not technically being camouflage, is a nice touch. Obviously, it's the orange color because it's an away game for us, and we're up in Townsville for that one. And it's a fairly similar design to what we've had in recent years. I like the touch of the handprints as well down the left-hand side there. I think that's really nice. Obviously, you've got the circle in the middle and some other animals surrounding that. I think it's quite a simple design, and sometimes simple is really, really good.
Yeah, it's clean, as the kids would call it. Stu, the Knights released one?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, actually, yes, they have. I take it back. Yes, they have.
Let me see if I can bring it up.
I'm just making sure I'm not getting it conflated with the Anzac jersey now.
What are your thoughts on ours, anyway?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think the Indigenous jerseys every year, but are generally pretty well hit out the park. I reckon, as I understand it, they're generally designed by Indigenous artists, and they generally do a really, really good job. It's always painful to see some of the beautiful designs, interfered with by the jersey sponsors, but I always think they're really good. I mean, they look brilliant. I own, I think it was the 2021 or 2020 Indigenous jersey that my in-laws got me for Christmas one year, which I wear around the house sometimes. So yeah, they're great jerseys. They always just look smashing, I think.
So one of my favorite things about the Indigenous jerseys and the whole process is when the artists get to showcase it to the team, especially when the artist is like a young person, like a teenager or something. It's so cool seeing them get to explain their design to the team and then see the team wearing it and having all that sort of involvement with the game or with the team on game day and game week. It's such a beautiful touch.
Yeah, just brought up the Knights one on screen here. Yeah, I like it. It's cool. It's kind of
quite colourful.
The colourfuls and the beach sort of references with the water as well. Obviously, Newcastle being a big.
I don't know if that's the 2024 one. I'm looking at the press release they did 4 days ago. It's a little bit different to that. I think that might be the one I own, actually, the one you've got on screen. Yeah, the one that I can't bring it up on your screen, but the one that I'm looking at, it's really nice. It's obviously a home game for us because it's a home style looking strip. But it's nice. It's really good.
Yeah, I got it. My bad. But your last year's one looks really good. Here's this year's.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah. So yeah,
it is.
That's cool. I don't know. I like the beachy. Maybe because I don't have the red and blue obviously means nothing to me, so I quite like the beachy one of last year.
And you're from Terrigal, so yeah.
Yeah.
Who are you guys playing for
old surfy me.
Indigenous round?
I don't know, actually. Let me have a look.
Which is when, Az? Do you have you're the stats
round
man?
12, so it's the week after Magic Round.
I'll tell you.
Who are we playing as?
Cowboys up in Townsville.
Cowboys. Cool. Going back to Townsville. While you bring that up.
We're playing nobody. We got the bye.
Oh, there you go. We can get a beach.
You'll probably be wearing it. You'll probably wear it round 13 then.
Yeah.
Shouts to Phil Rogers. He sent us £5. He has £5 from our man in Britain. He said, I wanted to buy one, but the club will no longer post to the UK. Phil, I'll speak to you in the Discord, but I'm sending you your WestsLife jersey later in the month. So I might be, I'll try and help you out there. I can put it in the package with your WestsLife jersey, and which we should get by the end of the month. So we'll chat on the Discord. I'll help you out there. Our biggest fan from Great Britain. Good on you, Foal. Next news item, and thanks for the £5 too. It's £5. It's like $10, isn't it? It's about double-ish.
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah, I know America, we're at about 66 cents to the dollar. I'm not sure about the pound. I only buy stuff from America. I don't buy stuff from Britain. Anyway, just a little Bulldogs bite, having a crack at Benji this week, saying, "Oh, the Tigers are the same. Benji's not making any difference." Bulldog, come on, mate. How many games in are we as? 8?
Yeah, we've played 8 games.
Yeah, 9 rounds, 1 bye. So 8 games in. Like, the boys are clearly turning up. We've made some good signings for next year. I think despite our shit start to the season, I think West Tigers fans are still optimistic about the future and still the majority have a faith in Benji. Like plenty of people, I know the attack is concerning. Obviously, the worst attack in the league, but like I don't know, give Benji time, guys. He's obviously learning. He's a rookie coach. He's still learning. He's obviously been here for the past while working under Tim Sheen, so it's not like technically not really his first year, but he's give him more time, build the roster, he's trying things this week to see with the which we'll talk about with the team list later. But he got me. He got my click on this one.
Yeah, an article like that isn't going to get my click anymore. It's obvious that we're moving in the right direction. Just a quick look at it from a stats point of view. To this point last year, our biggest loss was round 5 to the Broncos, where we lost by 34. And I think this year our biggest loss so far might be the 20-point loss to the Raiders in round 1. I don't think off the top of my head we've lost a game by more than that. So, yeah, the club is 100% moving in the right direction. We had 2 wins in our first 3 games this year. It took us, 8 games, our 8th game to get our first win, or our 7th game maybe last year to get our first win, and then we only won 4. I still truly believe we're going to win more than 4 games this year.
That's great.
Especially if the refereeing can be a little bit fairer. But we are 100% moving in the right direction. Benji is the big reason, or a big reason, why we've got some of the signings for next year, such as Taruva, Luai. We are 100% moving in the right direction, and Bulldog Richie can F right off.
Riffraff said, no, our man in Miami, no click from Az, well played, F Bulldog. Look, I only clicked it because I do this show and I'm looking for things to talk about. I have to click it. It's anything West Tigers, I have to click. So
you're taking one from the team, Joshy.
It's part of being the producer of this show. I've got to swim through shit to bring out gold for you guys on the show. But that's sure was shit. Right, onto the game itself. As take us through the West Tigers team list.
No worries. So we've had a few changes this week. So Jareem Buller is at fullback with Charlie Staines and Brent Naden on the wings, Stafford To'a and Justin Olam in the centres, Lockie Galvin and Jaden Sullivan in the halves, Stefano Utoikamanu and David Clemmer as props with Api Coruscant back at hooker, Samuela Fainu and John Bateman are the second rowers with Isaiah Papalii shifting to lock. Jake Simpkin, Alex Twal, Alex Seyfarth and Fanua Bole are on the bench. Talon De Silva is 18th man with Solomon Aliamalo, Asul Kepaoa, Alex Lobb and Solomona Fa'atape in the reserves.
Righto, so obviously some changes both forced and experimental in this one. Obviously, Api Coruscant back at hooker. As obviously we'll do our tips later, but that man in the side, I think if Api plays when we play the Doggies? Saturday. I think at the very least, if he plays in the second half, I think we win that game. Like Api Coruscant is the heart and soul of this team.
Definitely go close.
Yeah.
Definitely go close.
Yeah, I reckon it's a much better chance of us being able to hold on and potentially score a couple more tries in the second half with Api. He's such a difference maker to our team. It was a shame he couldn't get right for the game. Hopefully he is right for this one. But yeah, he is a massive point of difference and a big part of our attack. I'm enjoying watching his combination with Lockie Galvin continue to grow, and there's a lot of good positive signs there, especially with Api still at the club next year, along with the other signings that we've made.
Stu, from the outside looking in, it's Api's second season with us, obviously coming from winning 2 premierships with Penrith. Yeah. But what are your thoughts with Api and the Tigers been so far?
I cannot fault him. In a side that has been so troubled both in attack and defense and has just really been struggling, both in terms of performances and like very clearly on the field in terms of self-belief and confidence. He's a bloke that's just going out there every week and just doing every conceivable thing that he knows how to do to win his side a footy match. And it's pretty clear the chemistry he has with other players and how well respected he is and how much he's looked up to among the playing group. So I think he's such an important member of the team for a number of different reasons. He's obviously, with his craft and his guile, such a focal point for the attack and where points can come through him, whether it's through the middle or quality service to get to some of your outside backs. And I just think in terms of his leadership that he shows and that he can kind of bind the team together, he's just so important. Like bringing one single player to a team that is already struggling is never going to be a magic wand solution fix. Like, it's not going to be like when the Roosters bought Cooper Cronk to a side in 2019 that was already really, really good, and he just made them go to another level. It's going to take some time for the roster to adjust, for them to adjust to new coaching, all that sort of stuff. But he's just such an integral part. I think he was already he was a really great player when he was at Souths all those years ago. And he's only continued to, like a fine wine, get better as he's aged, really. I think he's excellent. I can't fault him.
Speaking of age, see the guys in the comments just talking about whether Appy would be right and that Jakey Simpkin is on the bench. Like, is that a sign that Appy might not play still? I would think with this, obviously Appy, maybe it's time to stop playing him 80 minutes, give Jakey Simpkin, and he was pretty good, Jakey Simpkin, last week. Now, I think 10 to 12 minutes either side of halftime for Jakey Simpkin would be good for Appy, or if Bud Sullivan at half doesn't seem to be working. We had Appy Coruscant at half when we beat the Finns last year. Is that right, Az? He was wearing the 7.
Yeah, he
when
was.
He kicked that game-winning goal. So move Appy to 7, Jakey at 9. That can work as well. I mean, a hooker on the bench, I think. I don't know if that necessarily means, Appy's not right, but yeah, Jakey's definitely earned his 14 spot there, Az.
Oh, yeah, he had a pretty solid game last week. And obviously, if Appy doesn't come through for this game, then Talon most likely comes into the starting side. But I feel like this is the right way to go. And obviously, Latu being out with that hamstring injury returning has kind of forced Benji's hand a little bit here. And I think we might see this combination a bit more moving forward. Like, no disrespect to Latu, but with Appy at the moment, I do believe we need to have a specialist hooker on the bench just to take not necessarily the pressure off Appy, but not forcing him to play a full 80, because the more he does, the less value and the less use we'll probably get out of him, because potentially more injuries and things of that nature. So I like the decision to have Jake there. Like you said, Josh, I think he's 100% earned it off his performance in that last game for us.
Bud Sullivan, as I mentioned there, he's in the 7. Aiden Caesar suspended. Stu, what are your thoughts? Did you see much of Bud Sullivan as a Dragon? He's only obviously had a couple as a Tiger. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, he's certainly not a game organizer, at least so far as I can tell, from having watched his performances both at the Dragons and at the Tigers. I just want to say something quick about Jake Simpkin and Appy, though, and the interplay between the two of them before I jump into Jaden,
go for it.
Which is that I was just looking while you guys were talking at how many minutes Appy has played in each game this year, and there's been a bunch of games already where he's played between sort of 63 and 66 or 7 minutes already in this season. He hasn't played 80 every game that he's played, even games where he hasn't gone off for injury. So I think it's just Benji's probably rotating his bench as needs must. If he plays 80, that's because there's probably some other thing that's needed to occur in relation to failed HIAs or injuries on the field. So I don't necessarily think Simpkins' inclusion necessarily is an indication that Appy won't be right to go, because it's already happened this year anyway. But in relation to Bud, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not sold on him. Just as a player generally. I think from what I can see, he's got a reasonable running game. He's pretty quick and can probably bedazzle some people with his footwork. But I think the quality that Aiden Caesar really brought to the side was a quality kicking game and a cool head. all of the relevant playmaking abilities, but a degree of experience and seniority and a cool head to be able to lead boys around the park. You've already got Lockie Galvin, who's a kid at 6, and you've got Bud, who doesn't really, in my estimation, have that same quality that someone like a Caesar has in terms of managing the way the team moves across the park, which I think is a problem. And it's going to be even more of a headache, obviously, when Jerome Luai arrives next year for you guys, because there's going to be even more conversations because you'll effectively... is Caesar only signed for this season?
He's got an option. It's a mutual option for next year, I believe.
Right.
Yep, that's right.
So, yeah, I don't know what you guys do next year, but I don't know to what degree Bud Sullivan will be part of that, particularly because I don't think he's shown a lot in a Tigers jersey. Particularly in that Canberra game, he just got absolutely exposed in defence on a number of occasions, particularly that blindside play. And I don't know that he's been that integral in creating points for you guys, and I worry about that. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's my view.
Yep, you're probably echoing how most of us Tigers fans are feeling. But look, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong, Jaden, please, on Saturday. Another big change. Brent Naden moved from the centres to the wing. He's going to be he's named outside Justin Olam, and Stafford Toa will take the centre position with Charlie Staines. Well, based on how the team list is said anyway, we'll see what side of the field they are. But I don't know, I thought NATO and Charlie Staines, as the former Panthers players, were forming a nice little combo. I like Naden in the centres. Look, Stafford Toa's had some good performances for us before, but I know it's tough because Naden's a centre. Olam's obviously locked in as a centre, and Stafford Toa is a centre as well. So I don't really know what you do there, but yeah, I thought NATO. He's had obviously a couple of brain melts and that sort of thing, but I still think he's been pretty good in the centres.
Yeah, I think the thing with NATO is he's got that finishing ability as well as a decent bit of pace, so he can kind of fill both of those center and wing positions, and I don't mind the switch back there. I kind of thought that Toa would come back as soon as he was fit, which is a shame for Solomon Aliamalo, because in his couple of games he's played, I thought he was actually quite solid as well. He didn't really do much wrong. He didn't always get a lot of opportunities, but he was still there and basically did his job. But yeah, Toa, you'd have to say he is a specialist centre as opposed to potentially a winger. I think a lot of his best games have been when he was in the centres, a la the absolute rout of the Cowboys last year at Leichhardt, where he made Valentine Holmes look very, very stupid. And yeah, so I'm not surprised to see him back. I thought he probably would be back. And I don't know. I don't think we saw too much of Charlie and Toa last year. So it's a chance for them to potentially build up a little bit of a combination between the two of them as well.
We're obviously going to get to the Knights team list as well, but Stu, how do our outside backs look to you as a Knights fan?
Yeah, I like Naden on the wing, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is he's a big body, and he's powerful. So getting you out of yardage, I think, and those tough carries out of your own 10 or 20 is going to be something that he can really help you guys with, particularly when you've got Staines on the other wing, who's more of a light-bodied, nimble-footed winger. So I think that's good. I've always been a Stafford Toa believer ever since he debuted for the Knights against Penrith and burned Jerome Luai for a try on debut. I've always been a Stafford Toa guy. He's broken my heart many times, but I still keep coming back to Stafford. So
when you say that,
first grade,
do you mean bad performance? He broke your heart by leaving, or broke your heart by not having good performances?
Both. I mean, he left and that sucked. But we were playing him on the wing, and I suspect he was more interested in playing centre, but we already had Bradman and we had both Anari and then Dane. So I just don't think he was getting a look in over any of those guys. And he was playing on the wing, but he's playing at centre for you guys. As you say, he's had some pretty good games, but he's prone to an error, both with his hands and some pretty poor defensive reads. He's got to try and get that out of his game if he can. But again, he's physical, and I've always been a big Stafford guy, for better or worse. So I hope he goes well for you guys. Hope he doesn't score a try, but
yeah,
hope he goes.
Not this week for you, but
not this week, that's right. As a general proposition, I hope he goes well.
Right, other big change that I guess is probably the biggest shock in this team list, because we kind of expected the other ones to kind of happen through circumstances. Johnny Bateman moved back to the edge, and Isaiah Papalii to 13. It's Benji trying things. The attack's not working at the moment. Johnny Bateman, I think, is better on an edge. Papalii last week didn't have a good showing, and a lot of people are not liking Papa. I think he's been better than people are rating him for this year. But maybe putting him at 13 as I might wake him up and let him roam and kind of show us what he can do, as opposed to maybe being stuck on a side as well. It's a very interesting thing. It's to keep an eye on Saturday to see if it works. What are your thoughts on this, Az?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this one goes. It wasn't what I was expecting, but apparently Matamua is still suspended, which is who we thought would be the most likely player to come in. I don't mind it. I think, like you said, it does give him a bit more of an opportunity to roam around a little bit more. Defensively, he might have to do a bit more work as well. But in saying that, he also gets the opportunity to run at the halves a bit more, which I think suits him. He could get a steamrolling run or two over the top of the halves. And, it'll give us a chance to see what his ball playing capabilities are too, or if he's going to be given that sort of Joe Offahengawi role from when he was here and kind of just make those tough carries and not worry too much about being an Isaiah Yeo or a Jake Trebojevic type.
Stu, any thoughts on Papalii? Obviously, he hasn't.
Yeah, I think he's definitely showed some improvement. I thought he was a massive letdown for you guys last year, particularly after he came across from Parramatta and he'd had such a good time there and just been so integral as a part of what they were doing. And you could put that down to the sort of weird spell that Brad Arthur manages to cast on his back rowers, where he just seems to turn, forgotten or otherwise ineffectual back rowers into powerhouses. Like, you only got to look at what he's done to Bryce Cartwright in recent seasons to see how that works. But I think he's shown some definite signs of improvement for you guys this year, and he's clearly very capable. He's clearly got a high ceiling. I like John Bateman in the back row more. I think his best games when he's been playing in the NRL have been in the back row, particularly in that season or two he played for Canberra. But I kind of understand why they were playing him at lock, because he's got some weird shit to his game. He's got some skills that just not a lot of other forwards possess. So I think I understood the basis for him at least being in the middle, with some passing and potentially the opportunity to create some points. But I suspect Papalii's move into lock is going to be probably not so much about ball playing. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen him do any significant degree of ball playing, but my suspicion is that he's going to play more of that power lock, laying platforms, tackling everything that moves, running really hard, trying to create line speed, ruck speed, to create space for guys like Bud Sullivan and Jareem to do to create points for you guys. That's sort of what I suspect the plan is, but we'll see.
That's pretty much any. Have I missed any changes? Have I? I think that's pretty much covers it. If we'll get on to
that's been covered.
Newcastle Knights, go for it, Az.
Okay, fullback is David Armstrong. Wingers are Greg Marziu and Inari Tuala. Dan Gagai is the captain, with Bradman Best his opposite centre. Tyson Gamble and Jackson Hastings are in the halves. Daniel Saifidi and Leo Thompson are the props, with Jaden Brayley at hooker. Tyson Frizzell and Kai Pearce-Paul are the second rowers, with Adam Elliott at lock. Phoenix Crossland, Jacob Saifidi, Dylan Lucas and Brody Jones are the bench. Jack Hetherington is 18th man, with Jack Cogger, Matt Croker, Jed Cartwright and Christian Mapapalangi in the reserves.
I just realised with Leo Thompson there, it's a shame Mitch Barnett's not there anymore. We'd have two guys on the Knights with our surnames, but he's obviously gone to the Wars this year. But yeah, Stu, how's this team list look different to your previous game?
Well, a couple of sizable inclusions. We've obviously got Frizz back. He's been off with an extended layoff due to, I think it was hamstring injury. And we've obviously got Jacob back, who didn't play last week. There was some pretty significant concern that he'd done his Achilles, but obviously that's all cleared up and that's not the case. So it's pleasing to see that he's back. So there's some two pretty significant inclusions. I'm curious about, the thing that I was curious about was that Brady Jones has been named on the bench over Jack Hetherington. Don't quite understand that necessarily, but that's where we're at. Brady Jones has played quite well when he's come into the side this year, so I'm not necessarily critical of it. But I think Jack Hetherington's been playing reasonably well as well, so that's an interesting choice. Not entirely sure why Ads might have done that, but we'll see.
As who's concerning you, the matchups, the outside backs for me, like Bradman Best is a gun, obviously Gagai as well. Yeah, two centre combinations there that might give our edges a bit of grief. But yeah, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think the forward pack is extremely dangerous. Obviously, you've got Jay Saifidi back on the bench, D Saifidi, the starting side, Tyson Frizzell, absolutely incredible second rower, who's often given us a hard time when we've played against them. Leo Thompson as well at prop. Yeah, their forward pack is incredibly strong. And there's one Jackson Hastings who used to play for us, who is one of those players who I think is going to be looking to have an extremely big game against us. I've got a quick question for Stu. Stu, how do you and the Knights fans generally feel so far about how David Armstrong's been performing in place of Ponga? I think he's been quite solid and has honestly filled in quite well.
Yeah, I think he's been great. The great Harry Ramage alerted me to his existence earlier this year. And so I went back and watched some cup highlights of him towards the start of the year. And certainly those highlights, I thought, oh, there's a bit of something about this bloke. And he is one of a number of juniors who would have come into grade probably around the time COVID hit. But because COVID stopped all the lower grades from playing, it kind of delayed, I think, his progression into first grade a little more than it otherwise would have. Yeah, he's great. Good country kid. Got some good speed about him. Got a lot of confidence, which is great. I mean, the way he tacked the ball in both last week and the week before was just quite good, particularly against the Finns. I mean, he had a hard time of it. Sean Johnson was just putting up some absolute filth off his boot for him to try and catch in the wet weather last week at Newcastle, which was absolutely monsoonal. I was actually going to go, but it was just horrendous, so I didn't. You know, particularly in that game against the Finns, I thought he attacked the ball really well in defence, and by that I mean he was confident in taking it. He made a couple of really good yardage runs and breaks off a kick return. I think he's slotting into shape quite nicely. There seems to be a bit of a set play between him and Hastings, where Hastings looks to be going to his outside and then passes back on his inside while the defence is sliding so that Armstrong can nip through a gap. They didn't pull that off against the Warriors, but they almost did, and they pulled it off in the first 10 minutes against the Dolphins. So, I think he's really good. I think in terms of Kalen Palmer replacements, I'm pretty happy. I was really eager to see Will Price get a crack at fullback because he's great. I don't know if you guys have seen any of his stuff from the Super League. We brought him over this year. He's an English player from the Super League and had played a fair bit of fullback over there. He's also got a bit about him. So I think the first choice probably would have been him, but he's injured himself in reserve, so it's not him. But it's Armstrong's jersey to lose because he's playing really well.
Kalen's supposed to be out for 2 to 3 months, isn't he? So he's got a decent chance to make a fist of it.
He sure does. It's a Liz Frank injury, so middle foot injury. So 2 to 3 months. might be back if we before the end of the year, before the end of the regular season. But I think, given his history of injuries, I would have thought they'd probably take a cautious approach with him, but we'll see.
Just got to address the argument going on. There's a bit of a mass argument. Gussie, love you, Gussie, says WestsLife Party less than 0.1% from 1,000 subs on YouTube. Much love, Tiger, good humans. Gussie, 10 of 1,000 is 1%, buddy, as Emmanuel has said there. But love the sentiment. Please subscribe if you're watching on the YouTube. So 1%. We're in the final, the 1% club, as there you go, the TV show that you were on a few weeks ago. So please subscribe if you love you, Gussie. He's a member on the YouTube channel as well, as is Shawnee. Good to see Shawnee's checked in as well. 98% chance of rain on Saturday. I like those odds. Okay, that means the forward pack even more important if that's the case. I guess, as you're saying, the forward pack is a bit scary. Look, I don't know. Our forward pack, I think we can take it.
I like your forward pack, for what it's worth. As a Knights fan, I'm kind of looking at your forward pack going, but they can definitely mix it with us. David Clever will try his best to wind back the clock and break some heads playing against the Knights, I would have thought.
Jackson Hastings especially.
Yeah, Jackson Hastings especially. Might have another post-match blue again. But I don't know. I think your forwards are I think obviously I spoke about Stefano earlier, but I'm super high on him. I think he's brilliant. Obviously, Fainu, that's Samuela, has a huge future. I actually see him probably as more of a middle moving forward, particularly given his size. But he's playing in the back row. But I think that's by everything I've seen from him, he's excellent. And Bateman and Papalii are no slouches either. So. I think what will be interesting to see is when the interchanges start taking place and Jacob Safidi and Dylan Lucas come on and Brady Jones come on, and the difference between the two forward pack's performances once interchanges start playing a role. Because I think Leo's had a brilliant. I thought he was great last year, and he's started this year even better than he did last. I think he's just going from strength to strength, playing with a lot of physicality, a lot of leg speed. Just leaving it all on the field. Daniel Saifidi's been pretty shit this year, if I'm being honest. He just seemed to me to be down on, I don't know if it's confidence or what it was, but he just wasn't, he wasn't playing like a 6'5", 110 kilo Fijian. He was, I don't know what he was doing, but it wasn't working. And his brother was out playing him week in, week out, but the last week or two, Dan seems to have turned a little bit of a corner, maybe, fingers crossed. So I'm hoping that trend continues to trend upwards for him. I actually think Dylan Lucas is really unlucky not to have held on to his starting spot. I know Frizzell is brilliant and a real leader of the forward pack. But I actually think Dylan Lucas has probably been close to our best forward this year. Last week he made something like 45 tackles with about 2 misses, which for a back rower, and he's not a particularly big guy. He's about 6 foot, about 94 kilos or something. He's not a big guy. I think is an incredibly impressive effort. We're all just waiting. I think Knights fans anyway are all just waiting for the one game where Kai Pearce-Paul just blows the roof off. What we've seen of him so far. I know myself and a bunch of other Knights fans are just waiting for the week where he just starts running over some people and, scores a couple of tries and starts hitting some holes and creating some chaos. He did a little bit of that against the Roosters, but I want to see a lot more of that from him. And I want to see some of the outside backs pushing up in support for him. He's so bony and tall and difficult to handle. And every time he gets tackled and starts making some post contact methods, he's looking to offload the ball, and the amount of times I see it and there's just no one there to pass it to because no one's pushing up in support with him annoys the shit out of me. So I'd like to see whether it's Bradman or even someone like Adam Elliott, who's always scurrying around the middle of the field there, just being there to actually take an offload if it comes, so that we can create some second phase play. I'd really like to see that.
How do you guys use Phoenix Crosland? Is he a backup hooker? Shouts to his junior club. He's a Aaron Eagles junior, just like myself. So shouts to Aaron Eagles. But how's he?
He's been playing a mixed role. He's coming in for Brayley, and then when Brayley comes back on for his second stint, he's often been moving to lock whilst Adam Elliott gets spelled. So he's kind of being used in between lock and hooker. I think he's predominantly his role in the team. I think is predominantly to spell Brayley, but I think that might be to do with the fact that Brayley obviously is coming back from injury still. I think as time wears on, we'll see Brayley play closer and closer to 80 minutes, and Phoenix will probably be used more and more as a lock forward to cover for Elliott, because their passing game and their sort of link up role in the middle of the field complements each other pretty well. Elliott and Crossland. Crossland had a really, really good season last year. I thought he was one of the most improved Knights players, and there were a few to choose from, but I thought he was one of the most improved Knights players last year, particularly after Brayley's injury and coming in and basically being playing that primary hooker role for the most of the season, in particular the back end when they went on that run. I thought he was really, really good. And then this year, I don't know whether he was just trying a bit too hard, trying to do too much, but it just kind of wasn't working for him. But I think, again, the last couple of weeks, he seems to have just really settled into his groove and settled into what his role in the side is a little bit more nicely. So I expect him to come on and spell. I expect them to do what they've done in recent weeks, which is come in and spell Brayley. There's been a couple of weeks where they played Brayley basically 60 minutes straight. So he's played all of the first half and then 20 minutes into the second half, and then Phoenix has come on and played the last 20. They've done that a bit. They've also played Brayley for maybe 25 minutes, brought Crossland on, played in kind of 15 minutes either side of halftime, and then brought Brayley back on and moved Phoenix to lock. So they've done that a couple of times as well. So I think it'll just depend on how the game's progressing, what the forwards are doing, and kind of what the feel for it is, I would suppose. So it'll be interesting anyway.
Right, Stats Man, what have you got for us for this one?
So obviously Tamworth has been our home ground for a few years now. I think we've played a total of 5 games there, and I can't remember what year the first one was, but I think it might have been a year or two,
2018,
possibly 3 before COVID. 2018? Yeah, I was there too. I just didn't remember what year it was. But Josh, can you think of any other team that may have used Tamworth as a home ground since we started using it? Because the Tigers are not the only team who've played a home game there. Without looking it up, can you have a crack at who that might have been?
I mean, the logical answer would be, are you talking about, well, the Warriors went there during COVID, didn't they?
They used it as a training base, yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't play a game there?
They did.
They did. Is that the right answer?
That is the right answer. Yep,
yeah.
The Warriors have played a home game at Tamworth. It was in 2020. It was like round 16, 2020. Obviously, during that first COVID-affected season, they were using it as a base until they moved, like a preseason base, as they were like in that period of the shutdown where they were in Australia, quarantining, and then I guess warming up to play the rest of the season, like the rest of the comp. So they came back to Tamworth sort of late in the season from their Queensland base and played a game there to thank the community. So, yeah, and that was, I've got it pulled up here. That was also against the Knights. So this will be the Knights' third game in Tamworth. The Warriors beat them 36-6. So a very big special thank you performance to the Tamworth locals. But, yeah, so that's my stat for this week. We aren't the only team that have played home games there.
Yeah, the first one was against the Knights too, and freaking Sean Kenny Dow, that guy, continued to haunt the West Tigers, scoring the game-winning try. I was there, and I went to the Leagues Club after it. It is a little bit sad, having been. I'm glad I actually got to get up there to Tamworth for the game. The first one I went to, it was a good experience.
Was that April 18 or?
Yeah, 18. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun
what
fact.
About what about Mitch Pearce that game as well, faking a HIA so they got a free interchange late in the game when he had an issue with his knee, his thigh or something like that, and they got a free interchange and they had a player come on when we still were a chance of winning the game with like 8 or so minutes to go.
The thinking man's half, Mitchell Pearce.
How can the son of the Messiah look, I don't know if Jesus had a son, but my Jesus had a son, and that's Mitchell Pearce, and just nothing like his dad. I don't know what happened there, but anyway. That's Scully Park, obviously, that game freaking, broke my heart. Shouts to Paddy Seals, the people will know as the guy with the tattoo of Nofaluma on his wrist. I shared a bunk bed with him, not in the same bed. He was on the bottom, I was on the top. No, that sounds worse. We were in separate beds in a bunk bed in our Airbnb. I went with Paddy to that game. So shouts if you're listening, Paddy. Stu, you got any Knights v West Tigers memories? Doesn't have to be in Tamworth, but a game that stands out for you.
Yeah, there's a couple. In terms of bad Knights performances, I remember I think it was 2019 where you guys flogged us, I think 44-6 or something like that.
Nathan Brown got sacked. Yeah,
Nathan Brown got sacked.
I remember that. That was a fun night.
Yeah, it was fun night.
One of 2 Knights games I've ever switched off at halftime. It was that one, and it was actually when we were playing the Bulldogs the other week when I was so mad about the quality of the performance at halftime, I switched it off.
There you go.
I remember that. I was living in Merriweather at the time, a suburb in Newcastle, and I just remember it so vividly, being so gutted by it when that happened. I remember there was a game where Herman SA, I think it was 2021 maybe, where Herman SA just steamrolled about 4 blokes to score in the left-hand corner, I think at home at Marathon. That was pretty good. And then I weirdly don't have really that many memories of West Tigers games in what I would call the golden years, so the 2000s. I don't know why. I mean, obviously there's the game that Benji, I think he debuted against us, didn't he?
Good question. I actually don't. I thought it was in Brisbane, his debut.
If he didn't debut against us, he played like his 2nd or 3rd game against us and just absolutely shreds.
I think it might have actually. Was that? I think he debuted at Campbelltown. It might have been against the Knights.
I think it was. And he just absolutely
round 20
went to town.
52-12 win. There you go.
Yeah.
Luke Cavell kicking 8 of 9 goals. Wow, there you go.
So probably my two biggest Tigers Knights memories are both that 2 floggings against the Knights, which is probably typical of a Knights fan. We both generally punctuate our existence by the various terrible losses that we've had. But I think that I actually really enjoyed the game. I think it was the same game that Herman actually scored that try, which was when Moses Mbai was playing for you guys. And Blake Green was playing for us. So that might have been 2020, actually. It would have been Blake Green playing. And Blake Green sort of threw it, was seemingly spreading it to the right and then just threw a switch of play back to Ponga in the middle of the field. And he just ran through about 4 blokes and scored under the sticks. And it was like time stopped still and everyone sort of stood around and looked and thought there was an obstruction. And Moses Mbai was just sort of standing there with his hands above his head doing the old Clint Gutherson special. And it was one of the weirdest tries I've ever seen. Ponga just put the ball down and kind of just looked around awkwardly, and the ref just sent it upstairs. I'm pretty sure, going, I don't know what happened. I'm sending it upstairs. This is before they just blew the try. This is back when they were still referring everything upstairs. And that's another one that I remember. But
I was going to pull up one a little bit earlier, but the 52-12 Benji Marshall debut. So Luke Cavell 8 and 9 goals. John Wilson in the centres scored a hat trick. Daniel Fitzhenry had a double. Lincoln Withers was playing halfback, got a double. Benny Galea in the second row got a try. Anthony LaFranchi off the bench got a try in that one. And the late Terry Hill was playing lock in that game. There you go.
Terry Hill.
Yeah, I've never actually gone back and kind of the years of following Benji Marshall. Kind of never. Dean Hallertau playing in the centres. Robbie Miles at fullback. Scando's there. Mark O'Neill is in there. Willie Manu on the bench for us. Steve Tricky Trindle on the bench for us. And on the bench for you, what makes this even sweeter as in this game, on the bench for the Knights was none other than our mate Michael Ennis. So that what a great game this was. I was actually going to bring up one that came to mind, and sorry to bring you on the show and kind of bring up bad. Or you said you don't really remember the early years, so I
remember a lot of them. I just don't have any specific Tigers related memories from that period of time for whatever reason.
Well, let me bring up this one from 20. Oh, well, good for you, Az, because you're not as old as me, don't really remember this. So, in 2001, you guys ran out to a lead. I'm trying to think of what the lead was. So the West Tigers ended up winning 36-32. I believe it was 24-6 or something. You guys were well out in front, and Owen came out and just carved up you guys in the second half for us. So tries in this one to Joel Kane, Makasini Richter, Kevin McGuinness, Owen Craigie himself, Corey Pearson at front row, and Benny Galea in at lock. We had Cherry Darren Center in the back row. Wow. Joel Kane kicked 6 from 6 with the boot and scored a try, so 16 points. And some of the names in your team here, 2001, you the comp, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I won. I was there.
Yeah. So yeah, great side. This no Joey, so that obviously helped.
That'll do it every time.
Robbie O'Davis, Darren Albert, Matt Gidley, Adam McDougall, Tamana Tahu, Sean Rudder, James Wynn at halfback. So yeah, obviously that's not Andrew Johns. Josh Perry and Matt Parsons, Johnny Morris, the assistant coach, obviously now for us, at hooker, Steve Simpson, Ben Kennedy, Bill Peden, and then a bench, Paul Marquette, Clinton O'Brien, Julian Bailey, and Clint Newton. Obviously, that must have been when Clint Newton was dating Jennifer Hawkins as well back then. So that's throw Andrew Johns. Great side.
They're basically full strength except for Joey and Benzie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that breaks my heart about that is hearing that Craigie was involved in it, because I love that guy.
You won the comp. Like 2005, like I'm not going to dwell that we lost to the Panthers in round 26 or whatever it was at the end of the year. When you win the comp, everything that year doesn't matter. Like all that matters is you lifted that trophy. So I guess you can cop being carved up. Let us have a night at Campbelltown, and you guys can go to what would have been Telstra Stadium then to win the comp. So, as any Knights Tigers games that stand out for you that we haven't touched on, probably obviously a more recent one.
Yeah, so a couple of my favourite memories of the Tigers and the Knights were my first two trips to Newcastle in 2018 and 19. I went to watch both of our games up there during that period. I can't remember which one was which, but I know the one in 2019 was Robbie Farah's 300th game, and that was really, really good to be at. I was super excited to be there, and we got a nice big win. I can't remember if that was the game where I think it might have been Michael Cheekham got stretched off late in the game, and I remember Knights fans booing the absolute crap out of him because they thought he was like faking an injury or something. Because it was a fairly close game at that time as well. We ended up winning, and it was a great trip out of the stadium. And with my Mark Hughes Foundation beanie, great night.
Yeah, just looking at our record, and obviously we're playing you guys at Newcastle later in the year, so we'll talk about that more then. But we've had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins since 2005 there. So in terms of it's better than Campbelltown. It's a better win rate than we have at Campbelltown. So there you go.
I just remembered one game that does stick out in my memory that's just come back to me, which was in 2016. You guys were the only team we beat that whole season.
With the second ball on the field.
The second ball on the field.
The second ball on the field, Corbin Sims. It's just I was there when at that game.
I'm still angry about it.
Yeah, we can't believe that try got awarded. That game is potentially the one that cost us finals that year, because obviously you guys did get a draw with the Raiders that year, as well as that win. So it wasn't your only points other than the bye, thankfully for you guys. But we finished 1 point behind the Titans in the race for the top 8 there. So if we had won that game and the rest of the season had gone on, we couldn't believe you guys got that try awarded, because it was literally kicked in Jordan Rankin's face.
Yeah, because I was there, and it was difficult to tell when you were there what had happened in real time. It was only when they started playing the replays more on the screen that we all realised that there'd been a second ball on the field, because as it unfolded in real time, no one twigged to what had actually happened. Not really. And it was only when there's a second. It was a second ball on the field.
It should have went back to play.
Anyway, it was the only game we won, and we won it through that. So that shows you how bad the 2016 season was.
Righto, so I've changed it up a little bit, obviously, for our betting segment. Barnett Stradamus. Look, it took me 3 seconds to think up of it. I might try and think of something a bit better than that. It doesn't quite work as well. But for any time try score a multi, as I'm sick of hearing about ex-West Tigers players scoring tries, so I'm getting on Luke Garner to score for the Panthers. He's playing in the back row. James Tedesco for the Chooks. And I'm going Big Samuela Fainu for us, especially now that I know it's raining. I like that even more, because Fainu, man, he's looking dangerous running the ball up with his post-contact meters. I can see him barging over for us this weekend. So, yeah, as I said, if you go to westtigers.com.au, hit the purple button, sign up to Chase Bet, send them a little chat in the chat there, and tell them that WestsLife Podcast sent you, and the guys there will look after you. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or go to gamblinghelponline.org.au. It helps a lot more when I have that on the screen in front of me. What are your thoughts on my little multi here?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I wasn't sure if Garner was starting or if he was on the bench, but if he is starting, I think that's a really good shout. There's a little bit of a deficiency down that edge for the Dogs, and James Tedesco has had a solid season so far. The Roosters look like a very, very good team this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got a try. And if it's raining, I like the idea of Samuel Fainu maybe scoring a try sort of similar to the one Galvin set up for Olam against Para. I think that's that one's there is quite possible.
Right, just moving on. Just saw Emmanuel, who's in the chat there, sent me an email as a troll earlier. Yeah, I saw it, Emmanuel. I could have deleted him, but harmless. We've read a lot of stuff, obviously, this week said about us and our show, and we read all the time. We thank everyone who has sent it, as Gussie right on cue sends us a super chat as well. Thank you so much to everyone who's reached out to us, as well as our friend Rob, who we're checking up on as well, and we dearly love as well. Gussie Harris sent us $5. Preemptive congrats on 1,000 subs. Truly don't mean to be a menace, but I wanted to send my love to Big Bob Bashara. Band-Aids still hurt. Well, I know for one, it came through that Stu has subbed. It's usually delayed, the subscriber number. So hopefully by tomorrow morning, it will have 4 figures on it, and we can pop the champagne on it. Righto, let's get into our tips for this week. And Stu, you can join us. So I introduced in the Discord Shane Collett. I think I saw him in the chat before. I think he's watching right now. He's leading our comp. So I thought, who better to be our guest tipper on the screen this week, got his tips up. And I guess that as it allows people copy him, although you don't want to catch him. So you kind of want to, I guess you want to catch Shane in the
pick where
WestsLife
he
comp.
might slip up and use that to your advantage.
You want to try and gain on him. So, sorry, Shane, it's kind of giving away your cards to help everyone catch up.
He can, of course, change his tips if he's feeling so inclined.
Yeah, true. It's kind of like Mario Kart. If you're out in front, you don't get the good the good weapons. So you need people to catch up.
Shells.
Yeah. Shane and I, tough one to start with. The Dolphins and the Seagulls. I've gone the Finns based on home ground advantage, as you've gone Manly.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. This looks like such a really good game to start the round. Dolphins home to Manly. The thing is, both these teams don't inspire a lot of confidence in me. Both can be incredibly inconsistent. Manly obviously did an absolute number on the Panthers not all that long ago. Had a draw against the Warriors after that, and a bit of a mixed bag of results since then as well. I don't know. I'm just getting a feeling about Manly in this one. They're a very narrow favourite as an away team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins get one up, but yeah, I feel like Manly is only just barely the way I want to go in this one.
Chase Bet has the Finns at a $2.15, Manly $1.70 as we record this. So yeah, bit of money, bit of value there for the Finns. What are you thinking, Stu?
The Sea Eagles are just such a hard team for me to get a read on this year. Some weeks they look like absolute world beaters, and then other weeks they just piss it up against the wall, and I really can't get a read on them. I'm struggling to get a read on them. I think I'm going to go the Dolphins. The reason I say that is this. Presuming the conditions are better, I think Trey Fuller will have a better time of it at fullback and be able to do some of the really cool shit we've seen him do in his few games playing there. He had a really tough week against the Knights and an even tougher week last week, both of which, in particular against the last week, were in some difficult conditions for him. But I think I also like the inclusion of Connolly Lemuelu, who's come back, played his first game last week back from injury. I think he's a really good player. And I think it's only a matter of time before he's starting over either Ewan Aitken or Kaufusi, probably Ewan Aitken. I just think on the basis of home ground advantage and Lemuela's inclusion, I think I'm going to slightly lean to the Dolphins, but there's not a lot in it, really. It's a bit of a coin toss, I reckon.
Definitely. We've all gone the Panthers up against the Doggies. Doggies getting 14.5 starts in this one. If it is raining, that's not bad. That's a big start, but all gone the Panthers as.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than what's being expected. Panthers haven't been quite their brilliant best so far this year. They're obviously still winning and still winning well, and there's no surprise why they are the favourites. But the Dogs have been somewhat of a surprise packet. I expect this one to be a little bit closer, maybe around the 8 to 10 point mark. So I'm not completely writing the Dogs off, but I do think the Panthers are going to be just that little bit too strong and that little bit too what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even think of it. But obviously
Clinical?
The Dogs have a few. Yeah, that's the word. That's probably the word.
Yeah.
The Dogs obviously have a few ex-Panthers who will be looking to put on a bit of a performance against their old club, but I think that, the Panthers should come away with this one.
I'll get your opinion on the Broncos Eels. We've all gone Broncos. Stu, 8.5 start there. Again, 8.5. That's a decent. I know the Broncos are hot at the moment, but yeah, rain about 8.5 start for the Eels. But
yeah, I think Broncos will do it, and I think they'll probably do it comfortably. I mean, no Adam Reynolds is obviously an issue, but Josh Rogers, who only played one game for the Broncos last year, is mature age debutant. Puts me a little bit in mind of like an Adam Clune, like that style of sort of late debut half, who's done the hard work in Cup and really learned to properly ply their trade. I think it's difficult for me to see a way for the Eels to win this one. It would take a seismic reversal of the way that they've been playing in order to achieve that. I like what I've seen from Ethan Sanders, but I don't. I think with the Broncos forward pack and then the brilliance of their outside backs and Reece Walsh, I really don't think the Eels are going to have much to throw at the Broncos in this one.
Righto, obviously match of the round. I've gone the Tigers. As you're a coward, you've tipped the Knights.
I've been a little bit unsure about this one, and honestly, I'm still unsure. I may change my tip to the Tigers, depending on probably the weather forecast. On a wet track, I probably like our chances a bit better. If it's a dry track, I do think the Knights will probably get the job done just a little bit more clinical than us. And obviously, like I mentioned before, Jackson Hastings probably looking to have an absolutely outstanding game against one of his former clubs. It's a really tough game to tip. Obviously, I really want to see us win. I'd love for us to win, but I'm not too convinced yet. Obviously, we've had a lot of changes, a lot of force changes, and they're just making me a little bit uncertain.
Shane's tipped the Tigers as well. Obviously, Stu, you're tipping your boys back in.
I am tipping my boys. And I actually think if it's a wet track, I like our chances quite a bit. The two games that we've played this year where we've looked the best were against the Dragons and last week against the Warriors. And both of those were in cataclysmically wet conditions. And I think the Knights in both times have done a really good job at just playing high percentage, high completion football, kicking relatively well, making sure that they do all the basics really, really well in those games and really prioritizing it. And both times it's got them the win. One of those times was without KP, one was with him. So I think if it's wet, I think it'll be low. I think it'll be similar to last week. I think it'll be low scoring because neither side are playing particularly flashy footy at the moment. I think it'll be low scoring, but if it's wet, I mean, I like the Knights either way. But if it's wet, I think Knights in a close one.
Right. So we've all gone Dragons against the Bunnies, but Latrell is back. Is this the Gong or Cogra? It doesn't have it on my Chase Bet app.
I'm pretty sure it's Cogra. I'll pull it up real quick for us.
What are your thoughts on this one, Stu? Latrell's got the Bunnies they're better than what they're showing.
I never thought I'd see Gennett Shibasaki play first grade again, and yet here we are. I don't really know what to expect from Latrell in the wake of everything that's happened in recent weeks. Obviously, he's not been playing since Demetria got the bullet, and I kind of don't really know what to think. But I think the Dragons will do it, and I think even though Latrell's playing, I assume Dion Teapua, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I apologise. I assume he's a debutant. I haven't seen him before. I don't love Saliva Havili at lock. I think Sean Kepi's had a really average season. And Matt French, another debutant, I think, on the bench. If you'd have asked me at the start of the season before a ball had been kicked whether I'd be tipping the Dragons this one, I would have told you, fuck no. But I'm tipping them now because I think they'll get it done. I just think South Sydney are in a bit of a shambles, and I think if they're going to get a win, it's going to take them a few weeks of just consistently improving their performance to the point where they can actually jag one. I don't think it's just going to be Latrell comes back and then suddenly everything's fine again because it wasn't fine before he was suspended, so there's no reason for me to believe that it'll be fine now.
All right. Yeah, fuck him. Keep being terrible, South. I don't care. Storm.
And yeah, it is a Cogra, just to clarify.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Ben, in the comments there. Storm and Sharkies. Betting's close in this one. I've gone Sean Blaw's Melbourne Storm in this one. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, Az?
Yeah, this is a really tough one. Obviously, it's second hosting first. This is a real big acid test for the Sharks. They're obviously top of the table at the moment. But the only current top 8 team they've played so far this season was the Dogs, who they beat pretty convincingly when the Dogs had quite the slow start to the season. So it's really hard to say how the Sharks are going to go against an actual contender. Obviously, there's a couple of decent-sized outs for the Storm in Pappenhausen and Jerome Hughes, both of whom are unfortunately in my Supercoach team currently. But yeah, I really like the look of this game. I've gone with the Storm based on home field advantage. Their outs are big. Tyron Wishart is an adequate step into the number 7 as well. So they do have some ability there coming in. Yeah, I think this one's going to be extremely close.
Stu?
I'm zagging. I'm going the Sharks. And I think the reason for that is this. I mean, I know obviously Jerome Hughes is out. I think it's not unfair to say he's been their best player this year by some distance. He's just playing incredibly good football, both as a running half and a more ball playing kicking half. I think he was absolutely killing it before he got injured. And I think he's a really big loss. Tyron Wishart's a competent player, but those are some sizable boots to fill. Obviously, Pappenhausen's out, but I'm hugely high on Suafalomo. I think he's got an enormous future in the game, and I'm really excited to see him play. But I think the Sharks, obviously the Sharks love beating up on shit teams and then struggle to match it with teams that are theoretically the same caliber as them, and that was an issue all of last year.
Like West Tigers?
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys struggle to beat shit teams too, to be fair. And we haven't really had much of a chance this year to see whether that's still the case or not. But I think this is a really good opportunity for them to show that they're never going to get a better opportunity to beat the Storm at home with Jerome Hughes and Ryan Pappenhausen not playing, and fucking Grant Anderson on the wing. No Xavier Coates either. They get Hamlin Ueli back, which I think is great. He didn't play last week, did he? This is his first week back, no?
No idea.
I think so.
Yeah. So they get him back. I like Hamlin Ueli. So I think, I think the Sharks also potentially in a tight one. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they do this and surprise everyone and do it well. But I do think it'll be Sharks in a tight one.
Chooks Warriors, we've all gone to Chooks. The bars are $4 in this one, as.
Yeah, just a little disclaimer here. My tipping this season has been quite garbage, to say the least. But if I was to pick a special of the week, this is the week. The Roosters have 4 massive ins coming into their team, including a couple of injured and previously injured and suspended players. I think they are absolutely going to beat up on the Warriors and beat up on them hard. This is it's a bit of a sad one because I thought the Warriors were going to do so well this year. I thought they were a real chance of not necessarily top 4 again, but I thought they'd be top 8, and they've had a very rough start to the season, very shaky, very inconsistent. And I just think the Roosters riding the high off battering Brisbane last week are going to put some absolute pain on the Wars in this one.
Playing at home as well. Stu, would you agree with that?
Completely agree. Something's wrong in Warriors land. I don't know what it is, but something's not clicking. They look disjointed. They look sluggish. They just don't look anything like the same team that they were last year. And it's actually really difficult, to my mind, to put my finger on. I can't actually work out precisely what the issue is, but it's definitely an issue. I think the Roosters seem to me, and they do this all the time, where they have a good result and then seemingly go back to underperforming. But it seemed to me last week the Roosters finally figured out that they're actually a really fucking good football side, and that they can put some scores on some teams that are also really good football sides. And so if they continue that, particularly at home, I think it'll be a comfortable win, if not potentially a blowout.
Do you think the thing with the Warriors, mate, like my leaning towards the Warriors is maybe last year was a bit of a flash in the pan for them, similar to what happened with the Cowboys the year before, how they just came from the absolute clouds and had a stellar season. But the reason for it, I think...
New coach, responding to a new coach, just riding the high of everything being new sort of thing.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of the fact that it was their first full season at home since the COVID-affected seasons, and maybe they were riding the high of that, and that's kind of fallen off a bit. But even still, like the crowd is still showing up, especially at their home games week in, week out. They've sold out every home game so far, I think, this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. Mitch Barnett's moved into the back row for the Warriors as well. He's been playing some really excellent footy in the middle. Even when the Warriors haven't been going particularly well, I think he's been a real standout performer. So much so he's in some Origin talks. I don't think that'll happen, but
that'd be awesome.
There are some whispers of him being considered for Origin amongst
really
talking heads. Yeah, it was mentioned on the telly the other night. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but
I'd love it. I'd love to see a Barnett on a Blues jersey. That'd be awesome.
He'd actually murder somebody. It's a shame Nathan Brown, as in former Eels and now Manly player Nathan Brown, doesn't play for Queensland. Can you imagine those two lining up against each other? It's a weird thing that he's in the back row. He played a lot of back row for Newcastle until they kind of turned him into a middle and played him a lot at lock. I don't know that he's mobile enough, given the extra muscle and weight he carries now, to really be good in the back row, but he could prove me wrong. So I don't love that, but it seems to me to be a move that's born of injury necessity rather than anything else. I mean, Adam Fanua-Blake will probably score another double even if they do lose. So.
Lastly, Shane has tipped the Gold Coast Titans, as you and I have gone the Cowboys in this one. I hope Titans don't, because we want them to stay below us on the table. But what are your thoughts, Az?
Yeah, this is a real danger game for the Cowboys. They've already played the Titans this year and they won quite comfortably. The thing with the Cowboys at the moment seems to be they can put a lot of points on, which they've done in, I think, almost all their games so far. But in saying that, they've also been leaking a lot of points. So this one, if they don't click, if it doesn't click for them, then they could be in for a long afternoon at the office. The Titans, they've come on in leaps and bounds the last few weeks. They've obviously they had a really close loss, or two really close losses the 2 weeks before they beat the Warriors. And then they had a really solid game last week as well. So they are moving in the right direction. It seems that the Des Hasler effect just took a little bit of time to get going, but they're clicking now, and it's good for them. But yeah, not great for us when we want them to stay below us.
Righto, to finish off lower grades this weekend. So Lickham Oval on Sunday. So Jersey Flegg and New South Wales Cup both playing there. So the Magpies in the Cup playing at 2:00 against the Newcastle Knights. So if you want to see the likes of Solomon Alamayo, Solomon Fatape, Lob City is on the wing again. Josh Papalii. Who else we got in there? Asu Kepaola, Young Gun Kit Lai. Do I say that right? As close. I'm thinking close
enough
there. Talon De Silva as well. So plenty of and Sione Fainu as well. So plenty of young talent to keep an eye on there. And then Jersey Flegg there at mid.
Sorry, Josh, just really quickly. One team change you missed just there. Declan Casey's moved into the halves.
He was a fullback, wasn't he? And there's no fullback named. Yeah, that's weird.
He's been playing in the centres so far. Like he was in the centres for us in that trial over in New Zealand, and I think most of his games this season have been in the centres as well. So interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how he goes in the centres. And for those who have the subscription to the New South Wales Rugby League TV app, you can watch this game on there.
Or get out to Lickham Oval. Get out there. If it's not the weather's all right. Yeah, sit up. Have a sausage sizzle on the hill. Sit in the Tommy Veronica stand. Jersey Flegg at midday as well. And they've got the Cubs. The pregame at Tamworth is the Cubs. So a mixture of Balmain and Magpies juniors. So some big future stars there, like Phoenix Godinay, who played in the played a big game in the grand final for the Magpies in the Harold Matts is in that one. A good name to keep an eye on there. So if you go into Tamworth.
Is he a relative of Peter Godinay?
We tried to work that out the Discord as. Did we make a resolution?
I don't think we did. I think he might be, but I'm not 100% sure. I was surprised we didn't see Hamasi Makasini in that team list. I thought we'd be seeing him there. I didn't catch if he was in the flag team list, but I thought he'd be around a little bit more and get a few more opportunities.
Right at Patreon, I promised I'd read out the guys' rants from the Discord. So patreon.com/WestsLife if you want to contribute and help join us in the Discord. And yeah, join in on the banter. Plenty going on in there. So Tuiaki Chicken Wings, aka Ben, said, taking a few hours to dissect. So obviously you wrote this not long after the Bulldogs game on the weekend. Taking a few hours to dissect the performance, take out Casey and her refereeing. We have a serious issue with senior players and their ability to lead from the front. Our kids are doing their best, and our experienced heads like Bateman, Clem, Caesar have giving away penalties, errors, and 6 against. It's not good enough. We're young enough as it is, let alone having the young guys doing all the right things. This, in turn, with a poor attacking game yet again. Like that second half was atrocious. We went away from everything that worked for us, and we're dominated by a bunch of small guys in the middle of the parks. We should have steamrolled them, but we were constantly driven back, lacking any go forward and no ability to spread the ball well. The clear problem now is we have zero depth to actually do anything about it. There are a number of wasted spots from youngsters who are nowhere near close to the first team in the top 30, on top of guys who should not be in the top 30 because of their shit. We're a few years away still from being anywhere close to competitive. Rant over. So Ben, very, very emotional after that one, as we all were. If you go off Monday night's episode. Shane said, I've decided to leave my rants a full 12 hours after the game from now on. I've got a question. Do we have the best referees on offer at present? Across New South Wales and Queensland, only 6 males are good enough to referee in the top grade on NRL. Come on. If this is the case, I'll pack it in. In my opinion, I believe the refereeing ranks have become so political that it's even salvageable. Matt Checkham was the last of the good referees. Even he saw the writing on the wall and got out. Again, in my opinion, the art of refereeing has been lost over time with the introduction of the bunker. The referees are so worried to make a call, and this leads to more errors. Just have a look at the amount of challenges they get won at the moment. It's ridiculous. I reckon bring back 2 refs. What do you reckon, Stu?
Incontrovertibly. They should never have been. Yeah. They should never have removed the 2 ref system in the first place. If you remember around the time like Vlandis was doing Vlandis stuff and introducing 6 again and removing the second ref, like the pocket referee and all that sort of shit, there was a lot of talk about stoppages in the game and over penalising and all that sort of stuff. And the product, in my view, hasn't been significantly improved by much of the decision-making around that issue that's been made in the game subsequent to all of that controversy. Referees making calls that are either contentious or possibly wrong is part of any professional sport. It happens if you watch Premier League, it happens there. If you watch NFL, it happens there. It happens in every sport, and it's going to happen in this sport too. The referees don't need to be perfect. They need to referee the game in a way that is done to the best of their ability, and don't need to be crucified whenever they make a poor decision. Conversely, I think it's worse when Annesley comes out in his little Monday morning mea culpa session and hangs his referees out to dry because they made a wrong call. And it's even worse when he says the bunker got something wrong, when the bunker are blessed with an infinite number of angles and revisions, and they can look at it and analyze it in great detail. There's no reason for the bunker to be fucking it up. But there's also no reason to crucify referees either. So I don't know where that gets me or what the solution is, but yeah, I think adding back the second referee would be a good start.
100%. Samuel Fainu fan club. I can't remember who that is as off the top of my head. There's a big running joke at the moment. All the guys are changing their names to West Tigers player fan clubs. Imagine if we had Blore and Joffa coming off the bench instead of well-renowned plotters, Twal and Seafarth. Genuinely think we'd won more games by now. Who is a part of our retention committee? How do we change decisions like this making forward? Look, we got Justin Olam. Yeah, I don't know. I was obviously always keen to get Justin Olam. I didn't want to see Sean go. People said I was an idiot. Sean Blaw's blah, blah, blah. He's not that good, and he's killing it for the Storm. So I won't say I'm right because I think Olam has been pretty good for us as well. But yeah, Sean is killing it down in Melbourne. So I'm happy for him. So
the Sam Fainu fan club is local loony.
Righto, next episode, Monday, we'll review Saturday's game against the Knights. Join us 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. Thank you to all of you that joined us again tonight. I'm nearly got 100 minutes in this episode. I always go into these previews thinking, we'll do an hour tonight, and it's just so much banter, so much fun tonight, Stu, talking Tigers v Knights. So thank you so much for coming on and being our Knights representative tonight.
Thanks very much for having me, fellas. I appreciate it.
And I'd have to say an extremely solid debut.
Promising.
Good luck.
A promising career.
So as I said at the start of the show, now we say goodnight to Big Dog, who Stu's very familiar. So good night, boys and girls.
Sweet dreams.
Has anything to add before I hit the sign-off video?
No, nothing to add. Just, looking forward to hopefully a really cracking game of footy for our last one from Tamworth. Good luck to Stu and his team, but not too much because we desperately need the win to get our season going a little bit more in the right direction away from that dreaded spoon.
Yeah. Good luck to you, fellas. Go well.
And as always, go the Tigers.
Go the Tigers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the WestsLife Podcast. Please follow us at WestsLife Pod on Instagram and Twitter and facebook.com/WestsLife Pod. You can also support and take part in the show at patreon.com/WestsLife and give us a subscribe on YouTube and turn notifications on. We'll see you again next time on another episode of the WestsLife Podcast.